Professor Govardhan Aliseri. He's the Executive Council member and Principal at JNTUH Hyderabad College of Engineering. A big round of applause for Professor Govardhan. I'll quickly introduce you to Professor. He teaches computer science and engineering, and he believes that following three things are necessary to make every person great and every nation great. One is the conviction of the powers of good. Second is the absence of jealousy and suspicion. And the third is helping all who are trying to be good and do good. Professor has served and held several academic and administrative positions. He is highly decorated with recipient of 28 international and national awards, including the Bharat Seva Ratna Puraskar and the Bharat Jyoti Award. He is also a member on the editorial boards of 12 international journals. Everybody, may I request you to please give a big round of applause to Professor Govardhan.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you all. Very good afternoon to you all. Very good afternoon to you all. Right. I'm sure all of you are awake, right? So I understand the session after lunch. Right? Okay, so how many of you are students? Just raise your hands. I repeat, how many of you are students? Still some of them are looking at this side and that side. Right, good. Right, so how many of you have visualized about campus life? Campus life means like this. This could be like this. Very few, right? Okay. How many of you could see those things in reality? What you could have, what you had visualized, and what is that you are seeing? Is there any gap? Right. Okay. So I don't take you to the classroom again, right? I want to, show certain things which are beyond classroom. Right, so you spend some time in your classrooms, and you also spend most of your time outside the classroom, right? And what matters, or what is more important for you once you leave this campus is how you spend your time outside the classroom. That is more important than how you spend your time in classroom. Because classroom actually gives you some kind of ingredients to prepare a dish. But how you prepare depends on how you spend your skills, time outside the classroom. Okay, so we'll just try to see some of the important points which are very much essential. How you spend your time in the campus and outside the classroom. Some of the important things which might not have been covered in your classroom while you are pursuing your academic excellence, these things, right? So once you leave your campus, whatever the time that you have spent, productive time, that will matter a lot throughout your life. We would always say to you that these 4 years of time, if you try to enjoy your 4 years of time, not in a judicious way, then you will have to struggle for rest of your life. If you really utilize your time judiciously for these 4 years, then you will enjoy rest of your life. So you'll have to see 4 years of joy and lifetime struggle, or 4 years of little judicious effort and joy for rest of your life. Okay? So one of the important things which India is struggling a lot is the teamwork, including our Indian cricket team. We are individually excellent, and we do excel as individuals. But when it comes to the teamwork, we lack several skills. But once you leave your campus and when you get into the job, what matters besides your technical expertise is your teamwork skills. Most of the students who excel, who get 90 plus in academics, fail to succeed in their profession. It is because they are very difficult to mingle with others, and they don't really understand the concept of teamwork. They always think that they are above all. That is where they are mistaken and they go in a wrong direction. The result is that they cannot become good leaders. Rather, they can also become good followers. So obviously, the entire setup is spoiled because of few individuals. So that's how you can just look at this. You can click that. The power of teamwork. I think most of you really know that, but you know how small things can make bigger things. You can understand, and the power of teamwork again. That is a very big shark.
It's smarter to travel in groups.
All these small things, what you have seen you are those small things, right? And when you get into the software industry, I think all of you are from computer science and allied branches of engineering, right? Most of you. And most of you again get into software industry, right? And how many of you know different phases of software development life cycle? SDLC. Yeah. So each species or whatever the birds that you have seen is one team or one group or one individual, even in some of the cases. And the attacker is the client, right? Or your management, top level management even, right? So if you work together as a team, then you will be able to solve any kind of problem. So if you look at the software development life cycle, you have different phases, right? Starting from the collection of requirements, requirements analysis, then design, implementation, testing, right? Then maintenance. So all these different phases have different teams work together. But most of the times, if you look at the software industry, each team always blames the other team. That we have done well, but other team could not do well. That's the reason we could not get a wonderful product. So this blame game always goes among the teams if you look at any kind of software project. Unless and until you understand these things, it becomes very difficult to develop a high quality product. So obviously, there should always be more understanding than misunderstanding to see that all of us have a collective object, that is the high quality product. So that's the reason all of us have to work together. That team ability, the team skills are equally important to see that you have the collective vision and collective objective, right? We'll go to the next one, which is again one of the important things in the software industry called conflict management. One has got one objective, second has also got the same objective, but when it comes for face-to-face discussion, then our objectives always deviate from that. So that's the reason how to understand each other and how to, there is a called concept of management is that let us agree to disagree. There could be a possibility of disagreement, but we have to admit that. If you don't admit that, and there is no end for it, there is no end for the argument. Happens quite often in our everyday's life, right? You must have seen the path was so big, so wide, and when they had a difference of opinion, and when you don't admit, right, when you don't understand each other, then obviously what happens? Though you have a very big path or big solution possible, you don't take that. You fight each other, but you will not find the solution. And see the second option, though the path was very small, right, and which was very critical. In spite of that, when they had understanding of each other, when there was an agreement, then obviously even that critical path could become very simple path, easy to cross. So that's the reason when you have a kind of conflicts between us or amongst us, then we have to come to a common understanding. And this comes in everyday's life of your academic pursuit and beyond academic pursuit also. You have your own teams, friend circles, groups, right? Each group may have their own interests, but you should also respect others' interests. That is what is essentially important. This is very important. Most of us always, must have thought that once your 10th class is over, enough. I have done wonderful thing and no more. After that, you had to go for +2. Then there you realize that 10th was not enough, but you have to carry for +2. And you thought that +2 is much more enough than what we have done. But after that, you have realized again, there is something more. And you will realize that there is something more and more. The more you learn, you realize that there is a lot more to be learnt. So that is the life. Because one of the important and primitive principles of this nature is that change. Change is the only thing which is consistent, nothing else. Everything keeps on changing. Everything keeps on changing. There is only one thing which doesn't change, that is change. Change is the only thing which is consistent. Rest all changes. Right? So we have to realize that change is a continuous process. Everything transforms even within a function of time. If you look at fractions of second, also things change. Sometimes we may observe and sometimes we may not observe. But change happens continuously. And if you really want to keep yourself abreast, obviously you'll have to follow the change. The first thing you have to realize is, change is a common phenomenon. You cannot resist the change. Right? Especially the software engineers, who are the engineering professionals in the fields of computer science and IT, the fast change goes in a much faster phase than other branches of engineering. And if you don't believe in that, you will become obsolete and you will become outdated. You understand, if something becomes outdated, then what happens? You will not use anymore, right? Just look at your smartphones. What were the smartphones 10 years back? If the same phone is given to you, now what happens? Everybody finds very difficult to operate with that mobile, right? Which was very, big in size and very hard to operate with the keys, not with the touch screens what you have now, right? And imagine the TVs will be replaced by just the screens in the air. So that would be the future. And your body itself will become a part of the technology. That's the future of the technology. Because of the IoT, everything becomes operational, including your body. Besides all kinds of goods and instruments, right? So the point here is that we should believe in that change is a continuous process, and we have to be on the same path. What you study in 4 years of course will become obsolete, outdated by the time you complete your graduation. I have never studied many of the subjects which I taught or which I am teaching now. So is the case with everybody, right? The moment you get into the industry, then all the subjects, all the things what you have studied, many of the programming languages perhaps will get replaced by some new languages like Java. Tomorrow you'll get Kova, right? Many other languages, right? So obviously, your preparedness, your readiness is important. There is one example. One of the companies made an interview. They are doing the interview, right? Process for the campus selections. Then the team interviewer asked one of the students that, do you know so-and-so technology? Right, so immediately that guy doesn't know the technology. So replied that, we cannot take you because you don't know about this technology. Right, so we are sorry that we are not taking to your misfortune in those lines. Then the student immediately replied, stating that, I do not know the technology, but in future I'll definitely learn this technology. I'll put my efforts to see that I learn this technology. It is not my misfortune, it is your misfortune that I am not taken into your company. Right, so immediately what happened? They have not asked any more questions, and he has been taken into the company. So the point here is that you may not know everything under the sky. What is essentially required is that your preparedness. Are you ready to take up any kind of new technologies? So obviously, if you are prepared to do that, then there is no death of jobs. Your readiness, your preparedness is important, right? So this is what is essentially required, what you may not find in your textbooks, but your continuous learning is very, very important. You may learn certain things through your textbooks, and there are several other things which you may not see in your textbooks or other learning resources, but your observation, your experience, your interactions, all these things will matter a lot, with which you will be able to gain a lot of knowledge. So you have to believe in that. A continuous learning is a process of learning, and it never stops. The moment you say that you know everything, the meaning is that you don't know anything. The more you learn, you realize that there is a lot more to be learned. So that's how you do your learning process. If you confine yourself as a student, then you close many of your learning doors and windows. But if you keep yourself as a learner, then there are no boundaries. For a student, what is the boundary? Classroom is the boundary. For a teacher, again, much bigger than classroom. Maybe campus or some university college is the boundary. But if you treat yourself, call yourself as a learner, then what is the boundary? There is no boundary, right? So that is how you should call yourself as learner. From now onwards, you are not a student. You are no more a student. What are you now? I am a learner. If you can't believe that, say to yourself 10 times in the morning and 10 times in the night when you go to bed. Next day you see, when you look at the mirror, you yourself see that you are no more a student, but you are a learner. How many of you are learners now? That's good, wonderful. Next.
The story goes that Marcus Aurelius hired an assistant to follow him as he walked, whisper in his ear, "You're just a man, you're just a man." They say two things define us: our patience when we have nothing and our humility when we have everything. You know, the greatest thinkers on the planet believe that they're perpetual learners, perpetual students of reality and of life. And it was actually Maya Angelou who said that actually I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. The person that we will become in 5 years is defined by the people that we spend time with today and the books that we read today. That's why who we associate with, who we spend time with, who we absorb our energy with will really define what's on our mind. And often what limits our learning is that we believe we already know. We believe that we already have knowledge. We already believe that we have the answer. But actually opening up ourselves to learn from the people around us, selectively choosing people who can be guides and wise advisors. We often find that this feeling of knowing makes us actually judge others and criticize others. And that's why we see that judging is critical, but observing can be educational. And therefore, we should be so focused on improving ourselves that we don't have any energy to criticize anyone else. And when we're focusing on improving ourselves, we'll surround ourselves by people who challenge the way we think, who question the way we behave. And that's why if you're looking around and you find yourself being the smartest person in the room, change rooms, you're in the wrong one. You want to be around people who lift up the way you think, who lift up your mindset, who really take you to new dimensions and horizons that you could never ever imagine yourself. I believe that we should never let compliments get to our head and never let criticism get to our heart, because when we do that, we can start to build with genuineness and authenticity. When we're humble, we can actually grow and rise up and always feel that we're learning, always feel that we're developing, always feel that someone can share insight at any moment that can change our lives. Have you ever found it that similar situations keep coming into your life and actually nothing ever goes away until it teaches you what you needed to learn? So when we don't extrapolate lessons from situations, we have to take that test again. We almost have to learn that lesson again, and therefore simultaneous or repetitive situations keep approaching us in our lives. When we realize that we're students for life, instead of making people see how powerful we are, we'll want people to understand how powerful they are, and we'll learn how to empower others. We'll actually attract people to work with us to achieve our goals. They say it's better to know how to learn than to know. Because when we know how to learn, it becomes a habit, it becomes part of our mindset, it becomes a part of the way that we daily navigate life. We're trying to draw lessons from every person, every situation, every interaction, every moment that can actually teach us something about ourselves, teach us something about society, teach us something about our world, teach us something about how we can interact with that space. And that's why Brian Herbert said, the capacity to learn is a gift, the ability to learn is a skill, but the willingness to learn is a choice.
So that's what it is said, right? So you would be, what you would be after 5 years is based on the steps that you take now. Understand? So every second, every minute is so precious. Right? And the next important concept is be the change that you want to see in this world. Many of us, get disgusted, become angry about the situation around you and the people around you, friends around you, enemies around you. Right? If anything that you want to change on these days now, is it possible? You cannot make me invisible now, right? Still possible. You can make me invisible. How? If you close your eyes, I'm invisible. Right? So where is the change possible? Within us, right? So be the change that you want to see in this world. It's a very beautiful caption. Most of us want to change this world, but none of us wants to change ourselves. Right? So that is what is essentially important. If you really want to see something happens, then it should start within first. Then you can see change happening, surrounded by you, change happening everywhere. So that's what is essentially required, and play that.
The story goes that Marcus Aurelius hired an assistant to follow him as he walked through the Roman town square. The assistant's only role was to, whenever Marcus Aurelius was praised, whisper in his ear, "You're just a man, you're just a man." They say two things define us: our patience when we have nothing, and our humility when we have everything. You know, the greatest thinkers on the planet believe that they're perpetual learners, perpetual students of reality and of life. And it was actually Maya Angelou who said that actually I've learned that I still have a lot to learn.
So something is mismatching in that video, right? It's okay. So if you really want to see that some change happens, the change can happen only, where can it happen? Within, right? So it should happen within, then you'll see the change taking place everywhere, right? Next.
Albert Einstein famously remarked in a conversation with Werner Heisenberg, he said, you know, in the West, we've built a beautiful ship, and in it, it has all the comforts. But actually, the one thing that it doesn't have is a compass, and that's why it doesn't know where it's going. This paradox of our times was propounded by the Dalai Lama when he said we have wider freeways but narrower viewpoints. We have taller buildings but shorter tempers. Will Smith said that we spend money we haven't earned on things we don't need to impress people we don't like. And it's phenomenal how the same technology that brings us close to those who are far away takes us far away from the people that are actually close. 30 billion WhatsApp messages are sent per day, but 48% of people say that they feel lonelier in general. The paradox of our times is that we have more degrees but less sense, more knowledge but less judgment, more experts but less solutions. It was Martin Luther King who said that the irony of our times is that we have guided missiles but misguided men. Have you ever found it perplexing that we've been all the way to the moon and back, but we struggle to start a conversation across the road or across the train? And it's amazing that Bill Gates was known as the top earner in 2015 with a wealth of 79.2 billion, but 1 in 4 CEOs claim to be struggling from depression. And do we actually thrive off this paradox? Is it that this paradox actually makes the media interesting? It's what makes journalism interesting. It's what makes politics interesting. It's what makes television interesting. Is this paradox actually what we feed off and what we live off and what we talk about and discuss in our circles? Doesn't it seem that we've tried to clean the air but polluted our soul? We've split the atom but not our prejudice, and we're aiming for higher incomes but we have lower morals. So I'm hearing you ask, how do we bring a change? How do we dissect this paradox that exists in our lives? And it starts by us, each of us, pressing pause, pressing reset, and then pressing play again. Taking a moment to become more conscious, taking a moment to become more aware, taking a moment to really reflect on the consequence, the implications of a misplaced word, of an unnecessary argument that we all know we didn't need to have, or to speak to someone just slightly differently, in a different tone, in a different voice, in a different empathy, with a different perspective, just to really connect with people on a different level. This thinking out loud started from Albert Einstein, and I'll track back to him when he actually said that the problems we have today can't be solved with the same thinking we used when we once created them. So actually we need to research alternative teachings. We need to deep down dig into those ancient books of wisdom. We need to go back to understanding if there's anything written in those creased pages of time that can actually reveal more knowledge and more wisdom of how we can transform our experience of light today. Otherwise, this paradox means that every step forward we take, we're taking 3 backwards every time.
So that's how it is. The last slide. 1 minute. Yeah, this is, how many of you have 24 hours of time? How many hours you get to concentrate on your studies? 1 hour per day? 1 hour per week? 1 hour per month? 1 hour per semester? So all of us are very good at playing one-day matches. Right? But the life is not like that, right? You cannot play one-day match with your life. You can play in your life, but never play with your life. Okay? Right, so this is one of the important things many of us knowingly or unknowingly do not realize the importance of time. Right? There is one good time management technique available. This is done by Stephen Covey, 7 Hobbies of Highly Effective People. If you want to be a successful person, what is that is required? Listen to the successful stories, then practice them, then follow them. Right? That's how you can also become successful. Right? You have one destination, and you have to get into the boat which takes you to that destination. You get into the other boat and try to go to this destination is not possible, right? So if you just look at this time management, this is called second quadrant approach. If you look at the x-axis, what are the parameters you have? One is urgent, and the other one is not urgent. Similarly, if you look at y-axis, important and not important. If you look at the first quadrant, they are urgent and important activities. And second quadrant, you find not urgent and important. Similarly, third, not important, but urgent. Fourth one is not important and not urgent. There are some list of activities given. You can make a set of activities for 1 week or for 1 month. Take your own activities and just try to put them in these 4 quadrants. Right? Just go to the 4th quadrant. What are those activities? 4th quadrant, they are not important and not urgent. Come again, they are not important, they are not urgent. Still you carry several activities in those lines, right? So that is merely waste of your time. So you can discard those activities, right? Then go to the 3rd quadrant. What are those? They are not important, but they are urgent. Just because they are urgent, you start working on them without knowing whether they are relevant for you or not. You carry them, so you waste your time. So you can also discard those 2nd quadrant, 3rd quadrant activities. Come to the 1st quadrant. What are these? They are important, they are also urgent. So you can make always, most of the people who want to become successful always have a list of works to be done, works to do list. So every day they make, or every week they make, every month, and they carry out those activities. So if you just try to follow the same, initially you start enjoying those activities. But over a period of time, you'll realize that what for my life is meant. Is it just writing those activities and doing them day in, day out? So over a period of time, by your own experience, you realize that these activities are important. You cannot afford to ignore them. But at the same time, you can also carry them leisurely. What you do over a period of time, you gain experience, and out of that, you'll try to push your activities from 1st quadrant to 2nd quadrant. What are those 2nd quadrant activities? They are important, but they are not urgent. So you don't have to do them in hurry. Leisurely, you can carry out. Okay? All kind of visionaries, leaders, scientists, engineers follow this 2nd quadrant approach. If you want to be successful in your career, then you just follow this 2nd quadrant approach. Success is assured. You are destined to be successful professional. Okay? So this 2nd quadrant approach will make you move from time management to what is called? How many of you felt that sometimes you feel 1 hour is so long, and sometimes 1 hour is very small? right? Why is it so? When the time is the same, how did you feel that? Interest, wonderful. So time is not the function of time alone. Something else is also there. So time is function of event. So if an event like this, you feel bored. If an event like a movie, then you obviously feel that, oh, already 1 hour over, right? So that's how, if you follow this second quadrant approach, you will move from time management to work management. You never feel like, you have death of time, what you find when you are preparing for your examinations. Like, when you come to out of 8 units, when you come to the 8th unit preparation, you feel that, array, time is, had it been 1 hour or half an hour, I would have covered all the 8 units. You spend 1 week time for 7 units and 1 hour for all other units. That's how, 1 week for 1 unit and all remaining 7 units are covered in 1 hour. That's how it happens, right? So if you follow this second quadrant approach, then you are assured with all those things. The last slide came. Thanks. Right? So, so the final caption is that we know what we know. We know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. Aim of our life is to know what we don't know. Wish you all happy and successful career. Come up in your flying colors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor. I'm sure students will be inspired by your talk. May I request Manoj to please hand over the memento to sir. Sir. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, sir. So, industry, academia,